Hello everyone, my name is Lowko and welcome to a best of 5 series of professional StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is the finals of the Wardi Monday Weekly. This is, I believe, the grand finals of the 44th edition of the Monday Weekly. And spotting right here in the top left-hand corner, we have the man who's been looking very strong as of late with the red Protoss pieces. We have none other than ShowTime. His opponent down in the bottom right, definitely the favorite going into a series like this. Even though, of course, ShowTime has been looking good lately. We're looking inside of the main base of Clem. And, well, Clem is an absolute monster. I think everybody knows that Clem, in general, doesn't really lose a whole lot of StarCraft matches. But this series, from what I've heard, is extremely competitive. So we'll have to find out exactly what ended up going down between these two. ShowTime, of course, always known as the Mauer, right? He's an extremely defensive player most of the time. He's very good at playing that laid-back approach, and it seems that like the new High Templar meta that has been super prevalent in this particular matchup is really well suited to his gameplay approach. A lot of Protoss players, like a couple years ago, were forced to do that Stalker aggression, and ShowTime was certainly one of them as well. And he's good at it, but I don't really think that's like his preferred approach. He enjoys defending whatever the opponents throw at him, and then eventually overwhelming in the later stages of the game. And when you go for, like, for example, like a 4-gate Stalker opener, you really have to rely a lot on your micro. Whereas I feel like for ShowTime, the defensive style, the more macro-focused approach, I really think that is where he shines the most. And that's something we see a lot more right now in the current meta of this matchup. Protoss players in general seem to have a few different approaches, but all of them do seem to be, well, reliant on that Storm research. So it takes a while to get there, but once the High Templar come out and once the Storm research is finished, Protoss will be able to, well, blast it all over the Terran armies. And that's where most of the Terran players are struggling a lot right now. That being said, Clem is probably the very best micro Terran in the world. I guess there's Micro Jackson, beyond himself. Maru, of course, also very strong in that department. Cure is really good in Terran versus Protoss. There's a whole lot of, well, Terran players that are... But I feel like Clem is always one step ahead. Clem is just... Honestly, if I have to put it very simply, I think he's just faster. His APM is always quite ridiculous. Now, at this stage in the game, it's still relatively low. But Clem is super fast when it comes to splitting up his units. Anticipating drop play, for example, is something he's very good against, or very good at as well. He's very good at positioning his ghosts in such a way that he can still get the EMPs off, even when the High Templar do start roaming the map. So we'll have to see exactly how this ends up going down. It's going to be a Twilight Council, though, to start things off. And I'm still fully expecting that it will be Blink pretty much every single time. But nowadays, you don't really need to play it as aggressively anymore. We've been seeing a lot of Protoss players just make a bunch of Stalkers and then chill with them. Just lean into the third base, lean into the Templar archives, rather than feel the necessity to be aggressive really early on. And that's where a lot of Terran players are struggling too, right? So they have to be prepared for both. They have to be prepared to be able to deal with a Stalker push, because you still need to respect the potential, say, for example, a 4-gate Stalker Blink all-in, whilst also being prepared for Protoss to just do the exact opposite and play the macro game instead. And it's quite tricky to actually make that decision properly. So it's going to be a 1-1-1 start right here for Terran. No surprise there. We have a bunker at the front as well, just to keep everything nice and protected. Shade is going to go around, but interestingly enough, ShowTime not really opting to go for a quick sentry. So when the new patch was first new about, well, let's call it recently. StarCraft recently hits a little bit different than other video games recently. Anyways, the patch, when it was first introduced, a lot of Protoss players were experimenting with Sentry first, especially in this matchup. But it's become less and less popular once again, which I find very interesting. So one of the big reasons to go for that very fast Sentry is that you can get the hallucination scouts all over the map. But in this particular instance, as we have a Widowmine drop arriving, a nice little bit of retargeting here by our Terran player just to try and force as much lost mining time as is possible. Good control here, though, by ShowTime. Not really losing anything. At least the Medivac stays alive. But yeah, Terran players have really been struggling quite a bit across the board in this particular matchup. So the early game, Protoss players have practiced that one a ton over the last few years. And then the mid-game is where Protoss becomes very oppressive all over the map. Oh, as we have the Raven getting intercepted too. Not bad. Very good start here for ShowTime. Yeah, the mid-game, and even the late game too, is where Protoss seems to be very, very oppressive. Although Liberators are still something that Clem may be able to get some use out of as well. For the time being though, I think this is about the best case scenario here that you can hope for a ShowTime. Especially when you don't open up with, well, a very quick sentry and get all of the vision. He still countered everything pretty much perfectly, anticipating the exact movement there from the Widowmine drop and then also that Raven. And now we can start dancing. Now, this is him not really committing to big aggression. The third Nexus is already done. Charge is coming up on the back of this. A lot of gateways too, so actually no Templar archives just yet. ShowTime doubling down on just pure Stalker Zealot for now. Okay. Let's see. Robo Bay coming up. Okay, he's actually mixing it up a little bit. He's going to be able to kill the bunker, that's something, but Siege Tank is a little bit further behind it. Start Command Center coming up right now. Clem has been bullied into a corner. Observer will see that there is a medevac trying to escape the main. I think Clem actually sees the little blur. Yeah, he must have spotted the blur just now. And he decides to just retreat the medevac. He does not want to get intercepted by a group of stalkers. Because honestly, if you lose a full medevac at this point, it kind of feels for a Terran player that they may as well GG out. Like, even though they're in a pretty decent position, nothing you went for early on has really worked out particularly well. Okay. Colossi coming up. Extended thermal lens. Already researching nice and early. ShowTime doing none of that hero stuff, where hero has been going for a whole lot of Colossi lately. But then in some of the games, and I'm still wondering if this is a mistake, but we've now seen him do it consistently. In some of the games, he goes like 5 Colossi, and he just does not get the ranged upgrade for them, which is insane. Usually, this is what you do as a Protoss player. So you start off a Colossus, and then your next bit of gas goes into the ranged research, because the ranged upgrade is really good, believe it or not. But apparently, well, Hero is no longer convinced that it's actually a necessity. Either way, the Terran army is trying to make their way around the site, but ShowTime has spotted everything. Now the scan reveals as well that there's charge, there's a Colossus out already. I don't believe that you can do a whole lot. And with the siege tanks indeed also now unsieging and popping inside of the medevac, that is ShowTime's apparently his trigger to move in. Lovely game so far here by ShowTime, man. Really, really nicely done. He's trading out Zealots, not really an important unit for him. Backs up at the correct moment, starts up a 4th Nexus. +2 has been started up as well. We go into Double Forge. And interestingly enough, no High Templar. Very interesting. Robo Bay has actually kind of lost some popularity lately, but I quite like the focus on it here. It's a lot of Zealots. So ShowTime really opening with that very low gas count, right? So he's only on 4 assimilators in total, and he'll probably sit on 4 assimilators for a while to come still. Basically trying to Zerg the Terran. Trying to, well, just play Protoss with that heavy eco style and then, well, throw a lot of Stalkers and Zealots at the opponent to try and eventually get him to GG. Clem, though, has successfully secured the 3rd base now, and that means he can start thinking about, well, for example, the +2/+2 upgrades. He can go into a Ghost Academy as well. Even though there's no High Templar, it's still fantastic against Archons and Zealots and the Sentries here as well. Gravitic Drive already coming up. 2nd Robo facility too. Okay. Nice little engagement here by ShowTime, but I really don't think he wants to commit too much. I think this is mostly him just trying to find some damage. Yeah, not really getting a whole lot done. Gravitic Drive, by the way, is the Warp Prism speed upgrade. It allows you to get those Zealots into the opponent's main base a little bit more easily. There's the Ghost Academy, though. Finishing up right about right now here for Clem. Ooh, even Disruptor play will be happening. Yeah, I've had some people suggest that maybe the Robo facility should be like 50 minerals more expensive than it is right now. Even though I feel like the High Templar style has been way more oppressive, this is something that Terran players have been complaining about. We've not seen a lot of Disruptor play, though, over the last few, well, months, right? It's just not really been a style that Protoss players have really been enjoying. I don't mind it here, though. So the main advantage of Disruptors is that they can't get, well, they can get EMP'd, but at the very least, they can't be disabled by an EMP. So the EMP removes energy and shields out of a unit. But since the Disruptor is a cooldown-based unit, right, it doesn't really matter too much. You can still use the Purification Nova, even when the unit has no energy, because it never has any energy. The shields don't really matter as far as that goes. Either way, Clem is getting a second starport now, too. Additional barracks as well added into the mix. Rounding up the total to 8. Good EMPs over here, though, and this is some mispositioning right now from ShowTime. He's going to pay the price with at least 2 Colossi. Yeah. And this is where Clem is so freaking dangerous, man. ShowTime decided to hang around the corner for just a little bit. The splitties are excellent. Clem suddenly finds himself with a 50 supply advantage. ShowTime probably looked away from his army and it accidentally moved in the wrong direction. Now there's a very real opportunity for Clem to immediately strike back. There's not much static defense over here. Without the static defense in this area, it's actually going to be quite tricky for ShowTime to hold on. The choke point here is going to help out, though. This, well, massive concave is extremely useful. I love the Vikings right now landed behind all of this as well. They deal a lot of additional damage. That was a Nova, though, that connected. New Colossus production has once more kicked in. Okay. And I think ShowTime will be able to stabilize. Yeah. Impressive work here, but a lot of losses, right? 65 Zealots have already died in this game. Most importantly, though, for ShowTime, he didn't get, well, forced out of the match. We oftentimes see the whole game fall apart for Protoss when they lose a bunch of their, well, most expensive units for essentially free. Nice little Zealot warp in inside of the main base, though. Actually putting in quite a bit of work. Man, that Prism is so speedy. It's moved from, like, Formula 2 straight to Formula 1 right here. The level is just significantly higher. In the meantime, there's still mass expansions all over the map. So Clem wanted to try and capitalize on that advantage to immediately win the game, right? Ultimately, he ended up getting a lot of damage done, but then didn't really slow down the eco of ShowTime all too much. And keep in mind, even though we have Colossi, this is a relatively low-tech army. So ShowTime is very quickly remaxing once again. He's sitting at 81 probes, so he can actually just throw away these type of armies and quickly rebuild them in much the same way as Zork players tend to do so. So the nice thing about the speed upgrade, look at it. It's able to outrun those Vikings pretty easily. Let's see. Oh, Stalkers, blink forward. He gets one of the siege tanks, gets one of the Medivacs too. Disruptors try to go through. Keep in mind that Disruptors do deal friendly fire. And this is an area of the map where Clem looked really scary just a few minutes ago. Again, another Colossus will die in that same general region. Looks like another one will fall too. Yeah. A lot of Zealots on the back it is now, though. We have 16 gateways at this point in time. Soon we are arriving at that maxed out state. +3/+3 is going to be available in a moment. Oh, actually, this is the +1 shields upgrade. A little curious there. Either way, on the other side, Clem is going into the 3/3 upgrades for his infantry army as well. And here goes the Prism again. Dum-bum-ba-dum. ShowTime first up. It doesn't really roll off the tongue very well, huh? Anyways, we have a speedy boy. Doesn't even need to hit the apexes or whatever. He just goes full blast through the corners. Ooh, Fusion Core coming up. This is going to be for the Liberator ranged research. Okay, Ghost does get an EMP off before dying. ShowTime decides to back up once more. He's already taken the base over here in the middle. Zealot run by over here as well on the right. So for the longest time, Protoss players used to do Zealot run-bys by queuing them up on the minimap and then never paying attention to them ever again. Over the last year, Protoss players have been doing this crazy thing called pulling out of engagements. actually microing the Zealots back if the fight doesn't go entirely well. Like, usually they were just cannon fodder and just, well, thrown away. ShowTime, though, has been enjoying just bringing those units back home because it leaves you with some money in the bank to, for example, start building up the static defense. Dark Shrine, by the way, on the back of this as well. Now, can we actually blow up the planetary fortress, right? These are very Zerg-like strategies, but there's no Banelings last time I checked. And while Zergs would love to blow up a planetary fortress with this much money in the bank, ShowTime doesn't really have that luxury here. He has taken the base in the bottom left as well, but right away, which is pretty nuts. Clem trying to micro his way back and forth. He's got a good ball of units over here, though, and without Storm, he can actually just clump up his units relatively nicely. Oof. Good hits. I wonder if you get rusty at all microing against this sort of thing, because it's so uncommon for players to go heavy disruptors. We're gonna go for the Dark Templar Blink upgrade too. Building armor coming up here for Clem. +2 air weapons. He didn't yet get the ranged research, but he did get the Caduceus reactor, which is pretty cool. I think we should probably have the Liberator ranged upgrade here as well. Clem's economy, though, is also nothing to scoff at, but now he needs to deal with multiple armies of Protoss. Still, the sensor towers are good, the planetaries are strategically positioned, and there's like backup orbital commands as well that he can use to just, well, mine some additional resources and maybe get some additional scans off. Nice around here onto the Stalkers. I believe that'll be the end of that Nexus over in that top right-hand corner. Army still dancing here as well on the bottom left. Clem needs to be very scared, though, of like Purification Novas, right? That can just come out of left field, and it's difficult to pay attention to all of the things, but he might be able to go up this high ground right now. Okay, EMPing the Nexus as well is a very good idea. Anything with shields that is affected by it, obviously, is going to be lowered, so ShowTime's Nexus is actually running into some troubles. He's now bringing his entire army together, though, as he's hoping to maybe cut the retreat path off of these units. He does get a bunch of the Vikings up in the air. Clem is going to be able to always fall back to the safety of the planetary fortress. The stutter step micro here is pretty good. Liberator numbers, though, are starting to grow now. Good dodge there on that Nova. Good snipe right there on that Disruptor. And this has been a very high-impact game so far. Both players playing extremely quick. You know what? 530 APM for ShowTime so far? Let's have a little bit of a first-person view. Ooh, we have a group of Dark Templar going down south. You know what? Let me take control of the camera once more, because while the dance is happening with the main army, the Dark Templar are swiping away. He may not have access to Banelings, but that's another way to get the job done. Dark Templar, in a way, are a substitute to Banelings. In a very cursed way. Ooh, even the Orbital Command is actually burning now. This is an army that needs to be respected. Loads of SCVs die, but the Nexus also did fall on the other side of the map. And now Clem has decided to take up his planetary fortress in a moment to that base that previously was taken by the Protoss. Man, what a game so far. We're 20 minutes in. Well, almost 20 minutes in. And I can't really call this an advantage for either player, although obviously the spot is much better for ShowTime across the board. It's just that we see Protoss get overwhelmed in these situations still quite frequently. Plus, this is Clem we're talking about, right? He's building up his Deathbally army. He doesn't have a big bank, but he's building up a lot of additional command centers. As this is going, though, obviously, it's a really good spot for ShowTime to be in. The fact of the matter is that he's got both the bottom left as well as the top right. And Clem is, well, he needs to get rid of at least one of them here at some point. He can't really break through this very well. ShowTime can effectively warp in like 50 additional zealots, you know? Like he can add in a whole lot of additional army here. He's got effectively like another 100 supply worth of units in the bank. Clem not quite so lucky. Okay, he does strike back. We don't have a mothership. We haven't really had aggressive recalls. This really is just a very Zergy approach from ShowTime. Although I think a lot of Zergs would be adding on a Nidus network and Overlord drops as well at this stage in the game. And I am kind of missing that here from ShowTime. The equivalent, of course, would be mass recalls. And that is something that would give him a lot more mobility around the map. He does snipe a couple of these planetaries, though, and that's nice. Still, it's costing him dearly. Orbital Command is going to be repositioned here in just a moment. Clem has also, of course, sniped that base in the bottom left. There's a new Nexus coming up over here now, too. Clemdo needs to start mining with mules. He's running out of cash in that department. He did get the advanced ballistics, by the way, for those Liberators. So they have their ranged upgrade, but they should also be sieged up. No planetary in this spot anymore does mean that ShowTime feels confident enough to engage once again. It's only about half of his army, though, because there's another squad of units in the far bottom left of the map. Okay. Zealots, though, starting to break into the natural, and this is a real issue. Still, the fight at the front is looking really, really good for Clem. He just got rid of all of those expensive units again. There are a lot of gateways available, so ShowTime can replenish it. But against an army like this, you need some form of splash. I really don't think you can counter this army with just, like, pure Stalker Zealot. So maybe High Templar would be... Okay, I'll shut up about the High Templar. As a matter of fact, though, ShowTime's bank has been fully depleted. Clem has taken a supply advantage after being, like, what, 8,000 resources behind just a few minutes ago? Never count the man out. He's so incredibly dangerous. EMPs right here on all of the static defense. Base in the top right is also going to fall. Zealot run by, though, is really hurting the Terran's economy, too. Clem has been knocked down to only, well, 20-something SCVs. But ShowTime is not done just yet. Who wins the main fight? That's the question. There are now 3 Colossi available once again. This choke point, though, is going to make it easier for the Ghost to get some EMPs off. Aggressive blink forward from the Stalkers, trying to just snipe down whatever they can. But I think this is an overextension by ShowTime, whose supply count just got sliced in half. He was hoping he was going to be able to force the Terran out of the game, but Clem magically created some more units. It's clear here that ShowTime did not expect that whatsoever. And even though Protoss was mining this base in the top right for like 8 minutes, Clem is more than willing to mine the remnants as there's still a few thousand minerals available. Okay. We have a single Dark Templar going to town. Oh, EMP. EMP does reveal it. The blink over the mineral line was nice, but Clem seems to have units everywhere. Okay, so both players are flat broke. However, Terran has 5 orbital commands. Clem also has about 50 supply advantage on the army size, which is very, very significant. I think Clem just did it. What an absolute master. Seriously, what an absolute monster here. Just insane. This is exactly the type of game that Terran players hate playing. Because it feels like every time you just cut the head off the snake, there's more. ShowTime, though, is now, well, unable to max out, right? I mean, just a few minutes ago, he was sitting with a huge bank. 200 out of 200 supply. Now he's not even really able to break 130. His army is also very low tech. We have 1 Colossus and 28 Zealots. That's pretty much it. There's a few Stalkers in the mix as well. But this is really no match for this ball of units here from Clem. Clem also slowing down the game, by the way, at the correct moment if he can strike right now. Look at the EMPs. Beautiful engagement here for Clem. He doesn't even bother microing. GG gets called as our young Frenchman wins game number 1. Next up, we find ourselves on Tokamak. That must have been a frustrating loss for ShowTime. It felt like it was pretty much unlosable. But then, he played against Clem. And you can never count him out. So what do we do this time around, Clem? We've got a 1-0 lead. Do we mix up the strat at all? Because even though it was a win, I do feel like it's the style that you really don't want to face off against all too frequently. If I were to make a guess, I think ShowTime is going to be playing Twilight Council into Quick Storm this time around, but maybe not. I don't know. Maybe he's doing this no High Templar challenge. Sometimes that's what happened, you know, when pro gamers are playing in tournaments, but they're purposely trying to mix up their strategies a little bit. Keep the opponent guessing, because obviously these two have a... Like, this is a weekly finals, but a few $100 on the line. But there's a good shot as well that these two will face off against one another in some bigger tournaments too. At which point maybe, yeah, try to go for a different style to keep them guessing. Storm would have been really wonderful though. And when you do have a lot of money in the bank, when you have 8,000 resources and you're thinking about making like another 6 gateways or whatever, maybe spend some of those resources on just researching Storm, even if you're not planning on using it. Because you might just want to bring it out in a pinch. Okay. Probe is bullying for a little bit. Mostly just occupying a few SCVs, right? And the Reaper will be spawning here in about 10 seconds time, so Probe has already decided to go all the way back home. Gas guys are finishing up right now here as well for ShowTime. And I'm fully expecting it will be a Twilight Council once again, although technically you can go for a Stargate if you really want to. You could even go for a Robo facility first. Pretty uncommon these days, but we have been seeing it a little bit more. Yeah, you play a very different approach. If you go for the quick Robo facility, usually the whole play, like the whole play style is just different. It's gonna be a Stalker into a Sentry. One of the downsides of going for the quick sentry, and one of the reasons why it has started losing some popularity again as of late, is that the sentry is 100 gas. So yeah, you can go for the Twilight Council, which is what ShowTime does, but this Twilight Council is now about 50 gas later than it normally would have been. And it effectively means that any sort of like Stalker push is already difficult to pull off. Clem is now obviously going to see the hallucination, and in his mind, he can already cross Stalker pushes off of his potential list of builds that he's playing against. Obviously, it's only going to be delayed. But usually if you want to go, and especially somebody like ShowTime, usually if you want to go for like a 4-gate all-in, you would want to hit that timing attack as sharp as possible. And the way that usually... I feel like this is sometimes a bit of a misunderstanding. The way that StarCraft 2 players usually decide their strategies, and the way that they usually scout the opponent, is not so much by trying to figure out exactly what the opponent is going for, but by having like an imaginary list of potential builds that the opponent might be going for, and then ticking off the options that aren't happening, based off of the information that they have scouted. Does that make any sense? So at the start of the game, Clem might be thinking, okay, it could be like a 2-gate fast expand, it could be like a 3-gate, it could be a 4-gate all-in, it could be like a Phoenix Colossus opener, it could be quick Robo with a quick War Prism, right? But by seeing that, okay, there is no Twilight Council, you can cross the quick War Prism off of your imaginary list, and so you can cross off like the very quick like Phoenix builds. And that's usually how these sort of strategies get decided. It also usually means that you can start going for medevac drops like this. But he got intercepted. Robo facility right now, though, on the back of this as well for ShowTime, and already a super fast third Nexus. Clem trying his very best to get some sort of damage out on the board, but the medevac ended up getting shut down. So this Prism is just awkwardly positioned right over here. Probius, no! Oh. Never mind. I thought Probius was going to sacrifice himself. We do have a little bit of aggression in the meantime on the other side of the map, it looks like. The Reaper went back in. I thought Probius was going to throw himself at the mine and then sacrifice his life for ire, but... The Raven, though, is sneaking out. It never runs out of fuel, even though it seems to be burning a hell of a lot of it. One of the magics of Terran. Robo Bay on the back of this as well. Now, there are a lot of Stalkers out on the map, And you never really know as a Terran player whether or not Protoss is going to be committing into the main. I mean, he may as well. It's risky, though. Yeah, okay, he decides to give it a shot. You know what? That green light inside of the tech lab was looking mighty juicy. And he does shut down the upgrade. Can't really easily get away, so I guess we're just trying to maximize the damage instead. Do we recall at all, or did we sacrificed him? So he shut down Stimpack. But you never know if you shut down Stimpack or combat shields. It is a lot of damage here on the side of the Terran, right? But 5 Stalkers for Stimpack and then also 7 SCVs in total. Certainly not bad. But also really nothing to write home about. I think getting the Stimpack upgrade is really good. But you're always sort of guessing, right? Did I get Stimpack or did I get combat shields? Because if you got combat shields upgrade, I mean, it's kind of annoying for Terran, but they can still go for a Stimpack timing attack. If you did get the Stimpack, well, then obviously they need to restart it. Hard to go for a Stimpack timing attack without Stimpack. Medevac drops, though, are going to be hitting the battlefield here. The ball is in Clem's court, and ShowTime actually sees the Medevac drop coming in. Perfect scout timing. He's already splitting up some of his units, though, but no Medevac for these bad boys, because one of them ended up going down earlier, the one from that Widowmine drop. Still, Clem thinking about going into the main base. Doesn't really want to go too crazy. We're once more, by the way, not going High Templar. We're once more going into good old Colossi with ranged. Clem trying to hunt down a potential 4th base. But even though the 3rd base was quick, the 4th is not. ShowTime is probably thinking about building it over here instead, even though it feels a little bit out of place. There is a Widowmine in position to at the very least see any of the units going down the ramp. Maybe even shoot at some of them too. In Clem's mind, there may already be a base right there on the left. Not the case though, as ShowTime actually just built it over here on the right. Another probe moves down to the low ground. Yeah, and I think at this point you can't really do much anymore here as the Terran player. Really not an easy way to contest with an army like this, especially up on a high ground. Blinky is going to be used again. Stalker does get sacrificed for it, fair enough. Okay. In the meantime, the 3rd base has been secured here by Clem. Viking production has kicked in once more. Combat shields coming up here together with the concussive shells. That's the Marauder slow upgrade, and we have a 4th command center starting up. So we're once more playing a bit of a macro game here. And once more, we're doing so without High Templar. Very curious. Is this a fight, though, that we can take here, Protoss? I don't know, dude. I think you're underestimating the strength of this Terran army right now, although the force fields obviously can change everything. Decent force fields for now, but they're also sort of helping out Terran a little bit there, making it difficult for the Zealots to really close the distance. The Vikings, though, are getting shut down, and that's a problem. Only 2 of them now remain. Raven once more drops a little auto turret over at the 3rd. 4th base is now up and running, but the worker count is not that big. Okay. We have another engineering bay together with an armory coming up right now for Clem. So he'll be looking into that 2-2 research in just a moment. I'm expecting a Ghost Academy as well here very soon, so he can actually start producing those. 4th base is going to be acquired. But Clem is actually adjusting, right? From the previous game, he's like, yeah, I guess I don't really need ghosts. If you're not going to play High Templar as quickly, I'm not really going to bother with it. But about this, oh, that Prism. The Prism does get killed right before the warping can complete. Man, we've had a similar disaster in the previous game, too, where ShowTime just overextended. Very similar spot this time, although the force fields are making it difficult for the Terran army to properly chase it down like he did at the time. Planetary Fortress, though, is coming up right now, and Clem is going to be given a bunch of time here to start up 2-2 and to rebuild that Viking count. Looks like we're going to be adding on barracks number 6, 7, and 8. That'll bring the total up to the most he's gonna need. Now, as far as gateway numbers go, yeah, you can kind of make like 25, and it depends how zealot heavy you want to be. Well, usually Terrans don't really make any more than 8. It's not unheard of for Protoss to go 20 plus gateways. It depends on the playstyle. This Raven, by the way, has been quite pesky. Yeah, 7 confirmed kills. Quite a lot of forced multitasking as well from the opponent, which is always nice. I think in the previous game, ShowTime made 18 gateways, if I'm not mistaken. But sometimes we see Protoss players going even less robo facility player, right? And they just basically go Stalker Zealot for like 90% of their army. And against that type of unit composition, or with that type of unit composition, you can easily go 20 plus gateways. Looks like we're once more going bowling, though. Double robo. Double Colossus into double Disruptor. And we're gonna play that tech route again, right? So if the Vikings die, we start making Colossi again. If there are a lot of Vikings, we make Disruptors. And it always kind of feels like this tug of war, where Terran can like try to anticipate what the next move is going to be. Because usually it is, well, pretty obvious. But sometimes you can kind of lose track of exactly what the most recent unit composition from the opponent was. You might just accidentally be making Mass Viking into somebody who's still adding on more Disruptors. It always does kind of feel like Terran is on the... Terran's kind of the short end of the stick there. Not easily done. Either way, Dark Shrine coming up once more. And would you look at that? Oh, you want to go double Dark Shrine. We're going 1 Dark Shrine, though, together with a Templar Archives. This was the big miss in the previous game, right? This is what everybody was wondering about. In the meantime, though, Clem did, by the way, get the personal cloaking upgrade here as well for the Ghost. So he is making that transition too, but not as quickly as he did last time. And he has started adding on a whole lot of command centers. ShowTime fishing. Hoping to get a lucky Disruptor hit. I believe this is the first time Clem sees the Disruptors. So he already knows, okay, we're going to be playing this game again. Not the best dodge on the first one, but he does get 2 Disruptors for his problems. And here we go again. The Vikings find a good engagement. One of the Colossi dangerously low. 6 HP, though, is greater than 1. It's also greater than 0. And health is a resource, right? So ShowTime can just use this to his advantage now. Starts adding on the static defense again. Liberator ranged. Caduceus Reactor. All of those upgrades will be coming up here shortly inside of the Fusion Core for Terran. At least that should be the case. Storm coming up, though, together with Shadow Stride again. I kind of love it. Okay. There's something about seeing a group of Dark Templar on the hunt. You know, when there's like 20 Dark Templars sitting off to the side and you know they're gonna commit, it's... You know the margin for error becomes extremely small. At this point, ShowTime doesn't have the supply available to warp in that many Dark Templar. But I would not be surprised if we're gonna be seeing that in a moment after one of these armies ends up going down. He's likely gonna replace it with a whole lot of ninjas that wear capes. Maybe all ninjas wear capes, I don't know. I would. If I was a ninja, I would 100% wear a cape. Are you kidding me? Okay, these guys think they're Dark Templar. Yeah, you guys are kind of cool too, I suppose. Trying to maximize the SCV damage. Colossus and all of their friends, though, are moving in on the right. Stargate coming up. Okay. So that is something was lacking in the previous game, too. Okay, the storms are decent so far. What about the Prism? What about the Prism again? Storm, though, is overcomplicating this a lot, but nice micro by Clem. He does get all of the Colossi out of the game. Was Harry Potter a Dark Templar, by the way? Because he did have an invisibility cloak. Is that what cloaks him, maybe? Does that mean Harry Potter actually had extendable glaives on his hands? Kind of like, you know, a one-bladed Wolverine? I got a lot of questions. Does that mean that Daniel Radcliffe actually played in Les Miserables? I don't know, dude. I've got so much. I don't know. Are Hugh Jackman and Daniel Radcliffe the same person? Oh, man. This is tough. All right, there's the Liberator ranged upgrade, though. +3 coming up. Look at the minimap. Look at ShowTime just gobbling up all of the bases. He says, thank you very much, but now pay attention to Clem's bank. He never got there in the previous game. Bro is dealing with a lot of money. We do have some of the zealots, though, trying to find an engagement, but it's not really working out anymore. We did have a single, Stargate added into the mix, but no Templar Archive, or no Templar Archives, no, we do have a Templar Archives, no Fleet Beacon. Pew! Far bottom right-hand corner, though, is going to be for Clem. At least, unless these zealots can shut it down for a long time to come. Which, spoiler alert, they won't be able to do. I do love the Liberators, though, going in. Yeah, we have a single Phoenix being produced just for the task to try and shut all of this down. Still, though, Phoenixes are extremely slow when it comes to dealing damage to Liberators. You still have to micro the probes out anyway, but... The Zealots in the bottom right, by the way, did not hold position there. Let's see. Ooh. Harry Potter is being warped in. Or should I say Hugh Jackman is getting warped in right now, man. Da-na-na-na-na-na-na. Oh, okay, they're doing very little. And this counterattack actually is now looking pretty good for Clem. He was just chasing those Dark Templar home. Just escorting them back home. He was being a nice guy, but then he found that apparently they had a house right outside of his. Ooh, what about the fight over here, though? Good feedback on one of the ghosts, and nice force fields as well. Overextension there by Clem. But Clem has got 10,000 resources in the bank. He's rich. Storms here on whatever he can hit, but I mean, ShowTime, he probably feels really rich. But there's always a bigger fish, right? And that's the problem here for ShowTime. Like, he's got money, sure. But he doesn't have Clem levels of money. It's a real issue. Still, if you can actually get on top of the main base, that could be huge. That is where all of the production is currently located. And you know what? Even though the Dark Templar couldn't finish the job, the Zealots did kill a whole base there in the far bottom right. Loads of SCVs have died too. It's important, though, for ShowTime not to go too deep. You don't really want to overextend too much. With 18 gateways, you can very rapidly get the job done. One landed Viking lifted up in the air by a Phoenix. One of the most cursed things I've ever seen in StarCraft. ShowTime, though, trying to see if he can break through all of this, but the Terran reinforcements seem to be coming in from every single side. Clem just using the all-army hotkey to getting this army, well, all back together again in one big ball. In the meantime, though, ShowTime dealing some really nice counterattack damage here, too. He wants to keep this Terran player on the ropes. He wants to keep this Terran player constantly fighting, because if Clem is given a moment here to max out, it'll be very difficult for ShowTime to actually contest with it. So I quite like this commitment here by our German Protoss. He's, by the way, still mining with 78 workers. Clem's economy has been knocked down to only 46. Now, again, he does have a lot of orbitals, 7 of them in total right now. Oh, Zealots might be able to actually get a good surround here. Stalkers blink forward too. New Colossi have shown up. Much like the previous game was ShowTime's to lose, this one felt like it is Clem's to lose. But ShowTime might just be able to bring it home. What a crazy set of engagements here. Clem, I don't think he can really compete with this right now. The Colossi are just going to hurt too much. He does have a lot of Marauders, though, and the Marauders are trying to see if they can tank some of the damage. A lot of supply here of the Terran is also caught up in those ghosts, although the numbers are quickly going down. He really needs to have... Wow, he really needs to have a lot more Liberators, but he can't stop the flood. It's so strange to see somebody GGing out with more than 5,000 resources in the bank. But Clem, I mean, once the floodgates were opened, he couldn't stop the swarm. Next up, we find ourselves on torches. A rather complex map. In a rather complex series so far, actually. So in game number 1, it really felt like ShowTime was leading the majority of the match. And then likewise in game number 2, it felt like Clem was the one who was supposed to be the victor. Ooh, look at Probius over here. He was way too cool to get chased by a Reaper. Cute little move. Either way, it's going to be a Twilight Council. This time around, Stalker into an Adept. So we're not messing around with the hallucinated Phoenixes, at least not just yet. Okay. Starport here coming up. 1-1-1 here by Clem. Do we go Cyclones? We should build, like, one little Cyclone. Just like one little... No? No? No, we do build one. Okay, fair enough. Ah, it's a delayed sentry this time around. So there's been a little bit of debate whether or not, like, the delayed sentry would actually be worth it for Protoss, right? Because, yeah, you get a delayed sentry out, and that's nice and all. You can still scout. But also, at this point, Terran has already been able to build up a lot of their important tech. So if you make a sentry right now and you see that you're just about to deal with a push that is going to be hard to stop, I mean, it's still good to have the information, but maybe the money should have gone to additional Stalkers instead. Okay. Well, he's going to see that everything is quite normal, and that these guys were waiting for the bus. The bus has arrived, though. It's like a Fortnite battle bus over here. Do people still play Fortnite? I haven't heard anything about Fortnite in a long time. I feel like I sound like a boomer right now. Anyways, the battle bus is leaving. Where are we going to drop? We're dropping straight in the bottom right. Oh. We do get some really nice Guardian shields here, but the damage output of this Terran army needs to be respected. 1 Marine dice, 1 Probe and an Adept. What about the push over here? Just a Reaper. There was already a shield battery planted though, and that is gonna make everything quite okay. And once more, it's a quick robo facility. Man, all these Protoss players out there right now on the ladder that are loving their High Templar, just know that it isn't your only option. Clearly, ShowTime is a Colossus guy. At least in this particular series, I have seen him play a lot of High Templar too, but... Maybe me asking whether or not people still play Fortnite while casting a game of StarCraft is... maybe that's... It's just that I haven't heard much about it lately, you know? But about once a day, I see a YouTube comment coming in of somebody that's like, hey, I used to play this game back in 2011. It's cool to see that it's still around. Shout out to you guys, by the way. Those of you that recently returned to StarCraft. I wonder how jarring that is. Like, if you haven't watched this game in about a decade or so, like 2011 is about a decade ago, right? Give or take. I wonder how jarring it is to, like, see how good players are now. Maybe it's also difficult to really note all the intricate little details that pro players pay attention to these days compared to what we used to have back in the day. Anyways, this is a push over here that's mostly just designed, the Stalker attack that is, to slow down the advancement of the Terran. He wants to buy time for this to be done. Medevacs? No. Banshees going around the site. 1, 2, 3. Nope. You do have to make sure that they're perfectly in sync. Otherwise, you do not get the perfect kill. 7 of them go down already, though. The Stalkers are still fighting. Siege tanks really want to siege up in those spicy spots. Not a bad situation right here for Clem at all. But keep in mind that Clem is all doing this off of only 2 command centers. So he's forced to deal a lot of damage with this particular attack. And ShowTime knows that if he can break this early, it will be much easier. If the additional siege tanks show up, life is hard. Looks like the sentries, or sorry, the observers here will stay alive. Banshee's still going to town though, and it is a lot of damage, but 10 probes is recoverable. Especially when you have 3 bases constantly making probes. It doesn't really matter all too much. Stimpack combat shields plus 1 infantry attacks though. All of it is finishing up soon. And it'll be like a second layer to the attack. But Clem was supposed to still be camping out on the opponent's side of the map. And now ShowTime, yeah, he can do some nice Stalker control here. Target fire down some of those important units, not really lose a whole lot, other than a bit of hull, I guess, HP right here on these Stalkers. Honestly, not bad at all. With charge done, it becomes way easier to stop these type of pushes. Robo Bay on the back of this as well. ShowTime is looking extremely good in these games, man. I'm really quite impressed. Going into a series like this, even though ShowTime has been good, Clem is certainly the favorite. But ShowTime seems to be on top of pretty much everything. And I feel like sometimes we used to see him get out multitasked a little bit, but not really having any issues right now. Splitting up his units in the right spots and mitigating a lot of the damage, also reading the game properly. Really, the only line of attack here for Clem is through this, like, right side of the map. It's the only part of the map that's dark for ShowTime. Leaving through the main ramp is difficult. I wouldn't mind seeing an observer going that way, but he probably wants to, yeah, use the Robo facility for Colossus production now. Fair enough. Medevac drops trying to go around the site. This is now effectively a Doom drop, and Clem, I think he's been spotted. He wants to go in unison with another push. Here we go. He's just YOLOing in. Is there enough for Clem to break through all of this? Well, all of the units do unload. Obviously, not the entirety of the Protoss army is present here. The Widow Mines have already mostly been set off. Some nice splash damage does still go down, but this is not enough damage here for Clem. He did build a third command center in the meantime, so at least he will have something to fall back to. But soon it will be ShowTime's time to strike. He's going double upgrades of his own. He's extending his thermal lance. And then we also have, well, more medevacs joining in again. You know what? We had a double medevac drop that didn't work. We had a quadruple medevac drop that didn't really work. What about a quintuple medevac drop? Surely that'll work. I mean, you never know. It's kind of insane, honestly. Maybe this one will be more successful. I mean, he keeps slicing these Protoss units in half. Nah. It's not bad. Honestly, it's not bad. Third base does get spotted now. ShowTime would have loved to send a few zealots across the map. Banshee is finally gonna get shut down. Fourth Nexus, though, is already about halfway done in the far bottom left. I don't think Clem has seen it, no. He has not quite had vision of that side of the map. Let's see where we can go from here. Yeah. ShowTime's army is scary, but it's not terrifying at this point. Still, though, it all comes down to the Colossi. If the Colossi can live, life is going to be good. He's backing up to the safety of the shield batteries. Good positioning here by Clem, though. Love the Widow Mines there, making it difficult for the Zealots to charge in. He decides to commit. I believe there's enough medevacs for everybody to get a seat on the plane. Yep. You might have to sit on each other's laps, but that doesn't really matter. Clem's units don't mind. And now suddenly, this game is looking way better for Clem than it did earlier. Not that long ago, it was full 3 bases for Protoss against, well, just 2 for Terran, with a push for the Terran that didn't really achieve much. But now, as the dust settles, we've got 3 base Terran going up against 3 base Protoss, with a 4th that just now is starting up again. +2/+2 researching here as well for Clem. Trying his very best to, yeah, slow this game down somewhat right now, and I don't mind it at all. Viking numbers are, yeah, reasonably significant. I mean, 8 Vikings against 3 Colossi is pretty good. Still comes down to the way that the fight begins. But I don't think it's going to be easy here for ShowTime to really find a good engagement. Look at this Terran army. It's just looking huge. 4th Command Center, in the meantime, builds up as well. Ghost Academy. Yep, all of this makes a lot of sense. And once again, we're settling in for a bit of a macro game. Lately, I've been casting best of 3s and best of 5s that are like 15 minutes long. It looks like this is the type of series that is gonna make up for all of those. I've seen some people to get a little bit greedy too, man. People are like, yo, you only uploaded a 16-minute video today, Lowko? Where's my second video? Some people are feeling really entitled right now, man. It's like, I need more free content. Ugh. Well, I try to not pay attention to how long the games are before I cast them, because I think it's way more fun for everybody. But sometimes the games are a little bit shorter, and sometimes they're a little bit longer. We've had one video, yes. What about second video? 11sleys? Lunch? Tea? Supper? Dinner? He does believe in those, doesn't he? Anyway. If you are looking for more content, you should definitely check out my second channel, youtube.com/morelowko, where I have been posting 1 to 2 videos as well a day. Push goes across right now, though, for Clem. Ooh, disruptor flank, disruptor flank. Oof. Sometimes I think my disruptor flanks are also longer than I realize they truly are. Anyways, it was a good attempt. What about this main fight, though? Zealots are actually starting off the engagement nicely. Colossi, okay, some good force fields too. Vikings eventually turn around and gun one of them down, but that was not a bad fight for ShowTime across the board. Really only losing the Colossus there and then the Disruptor. Good micro here though by Clem. Dancing back and forth. He's been taking dancing lessons with Terran for years. Oof. Forgot to use your Stimpaks. Always use Stimpaks, kids. Wait, no, don't use Stimpak, kids, is what I meant to say. Dude, I love the little healing shrine now. Nobody really seems to make much use of it, but it is good. Dark Shrine again. Disruptors again. Protoss trying to flank again. This time around, it is a little bit of a weird position. I think Clem can take down his Nexus with ease now. Protoss is way out of spot. Yeah, there's no way. That Nexus is dead if Clem decides to commit to fighting it. If he decides to, however, come in from the side, maybe there's a chance. Landed Vikings now as well are really nice to use. There's just no splash damage here for ShowTime to really prevent his army from kiting. What about that? Oh, jeez, that was close. Nova just barely did not go off since the Disruptor died, and there it is. Clem, he gets the 2-0. Clem, he gets the 2-1 lead. Match point on Maganatha. Very large map. Very possible to have a macro game on this one. ShowTime opening up Stalker here into a Sentry. I did, by the way, fast forward through the first 2.5 minutes or so of the game. Extremely passive start. And again, you want to see a magic trick? Again, we've got ourselves a Twilight Council opener. It's a good magic trick, eh? Alright. Blink coming up. What exactly do we have right here for Clem? He's decided to go for the good old 1-1-1. I'm a magician. Yeah, in my free time, I like to work on magic tricks. Additional barracks here on the production tab as well. Are we gonna go Cloak again? Are we building Banshees or are we going Ravens? Or do we do both? Okay, Raven for the time being. Hellion on the Watchtower to see if there's any units coming across the map. Nothing all too crazy. Now, do we go Storm at all, ShowTime? Do we storm our way to the win? Medevac drop is going to try and commit from behind the mineral lines. Okay. Engineering bay. He is getting the research here. But I wonder if that's just to fake it out against the hallucinated Phoenix. That he's going for the cloaking upgrade. I think that's what it is. Or you could actually let it finish. I mean, it's a pretty good ability. It's a pretty cheap upgrade. So ShowTime is going to see at the very least that the green light is on, but he can't see what's researching. Clem tried to fake it for so long, he decided to cancel the fake altogether. Alright, fine. Sometimes you have to walk it back. Stimpak, combat shields, +1 infantry attacks. Terran's gonna be chilling until those upgrades are done, although he does have a Raven and a Medevac out. Raven's actually all the way in the far bottom right. It's actually kind of in a position where you can forget that it is even out. It's just enjoying its time above the lava. Again, Robo Bay. ShowTime just completely ignoring what the established meta usually is here now. We are just going Mass Colossi. I find it very curious. Everybody under the sun right now is playing the very fast High Templar. ShowTime is just saying, nope, I'm not bothering with it. I am just going into the Colossus instead. And I mean, it's been working out quite nicely for him thus far. By the way, did you know that... Oh, don't turn around like that. Man, now I can't show the viewers. Ah, there we go. You know they have little fingers right over here in front of their bodies? The stalkers, that is? I don't know what they're for. Like little mandibles or... A little weird. I didn't notice that until playing this game for way too long. Why do they have additional fingers in the front of their bodies? A lot of Protoss units actually have 4 legs. Do you think they have 2 wieners? I don't know what it is, man. I've been wondering for a while. Anyways. +1 coming up. Arranged for the Colossus is about halfway done. Yeah, Protoss bodies in general are kind of interesting. Do you really think this is the best shape to be walking around? Having 4 legs like this? I don't even really know the lore of Colossi. Are they built or are they like... Do they spawn like this? I should probably know. Like, do these come out of some sort of production facility? Because if so, there's no way that that is the best shape. Like, it doesn't seem like the best, most efficient way of... Anyways. I could walk around on my tippy toes too, but it would be very inefficient. Nice little engagement over here, though. And I do really like the hallucinated Phoenix there to set off the Widow Mine. Clem is making it difficult, though, for this Protoss to really get an engagement off, right? ShowTime would love to just march in, but he doesn't know how many Widow Mines there are, and Widow Mines are just so scary here. Okay, now that they're all set off, though, he may as well go ahead and test the waters. No Widow Mines detected anywhere nearby. Clem can still micro. Try to back up to the safety of the orbital command, but still is dangerous. Additional reinforcements, though, for the Terran player. They do show up. Look, all I'm saying is if these were real Warhammer Space Marines, these Xenos would have been eradicated a long time ago. He really wants to commit to the mineral line. Doesn't quite get the job done. I've been playing too much Dawn of War lately. Clearly, that's all I can think of now. Purge the heretic. Prism goes into the main base again, though. And this is when the game becomes difficult for Terran, right? The multitasking becomes super frustrating because you have to split up your units. Zealots in the main, Zealots in the natural. Main army here of the Protoss is potentially thinking about committing to the front. So far, though, Clem is only splitting off a small chunk of his units. But he is losing a lot of SCVs because of it. And now the main army of Protoss has arrived. Disruptor trying to come in around the side as well, hoping that the Zealots maybe would still be a distraction. Not poorly managed here by Clem. But he did lose 16 SCVs now, and that is a lot. He can quite easily rebuild them at this stage in the game. But it makes you wonder, what if there were a couple High Templar inside of that Prism? What if we had Storm already done here? I think actually ShowTime is just doing this on purpose. I mean, it's not been going poorly. I don't think he's been losing because of the lack of Storm. I just wonder if he's maybe overcomplicating the game for himself a little bit. But it's important that you set yourself some challenge runs as well, right? And if you want to get good practice off, maybe you want to just really nail down a certain playstyle that you've been testing out in custom games. Doing it against the man who's considered to be the very best Terran in the world is not a bad idea. Clem in online states especially, right? When you're playing against him in an online tournament, he is usually very comfortable. Doesn't really slip up. And so far, Clem really has been struggling quite a bit. I wonder always, though, how much it has to do with the fact that, like, we're seeing a lot of Disruptors, and the fact that Protosses just haven't really been playing much Disruptors lately. Disruptors just really haven't been popular much, so you always have to, like, wonder whether or not it's, like, actually a good strategy, or if it's because the opponents are just kind of struggling against it a bunch. Look at the retargeting right here from Clem. Purposely not firing. Zealots go into the main base again. Prism finally gets set up. Additional gateways are finishing now, though, and that's going to bring the grand total up to 16. Second starport coming up. 2-2 is already done here for the Terran player as well. Both players are maxed. Let's see, how much damage can we do with this type of attack? Ooh, force fields to shut that army down, but I mean, there is no army coming in from that side. Good engagement right here for Clem, but does he have the numbers? Man, an absolute flank upon a flank upon a flank upon a flank. What a crazy engagement. I think it's working out quite well, though, with ShowTime's reinforces. With ShowTime's reinforcements showing up. Clem calls GG well played. I feel like these games are decided in just an eye blink. You don't pay attention for like one engagement and it's over. I feel like we rarely see Clem give the GG well played. The GG WP in general is quite rare. But he's now given two of them throughout this series. Either way, with the score evened up, it means that this series now comes down to this map alone. It's ley lines. Top right corner, Clem. Bottom left, it's ShowTime. Too cool for a decal on the base, apparently. Clem does still have the good old polar bear. Curious to see where this is gonna go. Yeah, ShowTime has been putting in a lot of work lately. It's nice to see players like take that extra step forward. He didn't have, I guess, the absolute best result he could have had at the EWC, at the Esports World Cup, but he still showed some pretty dang good games. It's kind of funny, actually. I was waiting for my plane to the EWC at the Amsterdam airport. And at some point, somebody like knocked me on my shoulder. And I was like, oh, hey, what's going on here? I was like charging my phone or whatever. And it's Sarah on ShowTime. I still have those moments. It's funny because I've been casting games for so long. But maybe not so secretly, I'm still a bit of a pro gamer fanboy. So I still have that moment like, hey, the pro gamers are coming up to me to say hello. Hello, what's going on? We chatted for like a little while. They apparently were on the same flight as me. There was always a little bit of flight drama. I believe one of the flights that was going in from, I don't remember exactly, somewhere in Germany. One of the flights that a lot of the gamers were on, a lot of the pro players were on, apparently was delayed for a very long time. And they were pretty happy that they chose the Amsterdam connection instead. It's one of the nice advantages of living close to Amsterdam. I mean, I don't live in Amsterdam, but I'm not too far away. A lot of the big international flights do a route through Amsterdam, so I can usually get a direct connection to a lot of places at least, or at least like at most like maybe one layover. Which I never really appreciated until I started going to StarCraft tournaments. I was like, oh yeah, this is... it's really nice. Because most everybody always has to do like a random flight from a random airport to finally make it to the big airport and actually take a flight from there. Let me just geography brag for just a little bit. Thank you very much. All right, it's gonna be Stalker here into a century again. No, but both ShowTime and Cyril did have a layover in Amsterdam. Cyril was saying his layover was like 7 hours, which is pretty wild. So he was just chilling at the airport for 7 hours. It was a long time, man. There's no way that was the best connection. I don't know, but from Finland, I don't know, man. I feel like there's gotta be a lot of flights coming from that neck of the woods. Anyways, it's gonna be a very safe command center inside of the main base. Clem not really willing to take any risks. Likewise, ShowTime though. Like ShowTime is probably the most risk-averse Protoss players out there. Like a Protoss player out there, he really doesn't go for anything too crazy. Although, would you look at that? ShowTime is mixing it up here in the final game of the series, going into the good old charge first. So he's been going blink first every single game so far, and now we're going into charge instead. Now, obviously, you can still follow up the charge with the blink upgrade, and maybe it doesn't matter all too much, but usually you only do this if you're planning on either shutting down your opponent's attack, or if you're planning on going for some sort of all-in of your own. Now, maybe he's reading this strategy here from Clem as something that needs to be addressed specifically with this style. I highly doubt it, though. I don't think it's really gonna do... I don't think this army here from Terran is really gonna require charge slots necessarily. But here we go. Clem is bringing a siege tank across, and this is a scary push on this map, right? So if you can get the Stalkers in position, that works. But Zealots, with their charge upgrade, are going to be coming out in bigger numbers, and they're going to be coming out a little bit quicker. Another big advantage, I suppose, is that you don't actually need to have the Cyber Core down, but Clem is going to try and see if he can deal damage before the charge slots ultimately clean everything up. He decides to elevator play the units into the main base, which is quite cute. But the medevac is already taking a lot of damage. I think that's going to be the end of the medevac and soon the end of the Cyclone as well. These units are not going to have anywhere to run. Very good defense here by ShowTime. Not bad whatsoever. A lot of losses on the side of Clem. Third Nexus is going to start up. Now Blink. Oh, cancelled. I think he's going to restart it again. He decided to go Templar Archives first. All right, Templar Archives into Blink. He apparently wanted to get the Templar Archives a little bit quicker this time around. And I'm really liking the spot right now for ShowTime because you've completely taken the wind out of the sails of the Terran. Now, you can't really capitalize on this very easily. I mean, you can try to push in here with Zealots. I wish you good luck. Nah, it's not going to happen. The Zealots would just get stuck around the corner and you just don't really get close to the siege tanks at all. You're just going to be blasted apart. But you can use this as an opportunity to take a third base, get the additional tech going. Yep. And now we're going Storm. Okay. Let's see. I mean, it's a perfect opportunity to go ahead and do so. Gateways added into the mix as well. Clem is forced to take this game down a notch, right? So he did go double... Oh, I thought I saw a second engineering bay. There was definitely a second engineering bay on the production tab, but he must have canceled it. No, he's just gonna try and slow it down a little bit. So we've got ourselves Stimpak, combat shields, +1 infantry attacks again. Third command center added into the mix. But this is a perfect opportunity to start going for example, storm drops. I wouldn't mind seeing that whatsoever. At this point, we don't yet have a prism. There it goes. Yes. I think it's a great idea. I think my own idea is a great idea. What a wild suggestion. No, but I think it makes a lot of sense here. It's something that's difficult to predict. And storm drops are kind of like Widowmine drops, except even more dangerous. I think one of the big problems is that Terrans just haven't really dealt with that sort of aggression nearly as much. Maybe we don't even need to go for the drops, though. Maybe we can just bring this as part of the main army. I was thinking about storming the mineral line. But ShowTime might just be able to... Oh, no, I think we are going. We are going Storm Drops into the mineral line. Well, if Clem has any say in the matter, he may accidentally get stormed by the side, though. And that's... Yeah. ShowTime did not hesitate. Ay, look how much damage that dealt. Well, this attack has already been nullified. There's no way Clem can actually commit now. Okay. Ghost Academy. Added into the mix immediately. Do we go into a 4th base or do we try to go for a push? The boys come together. The boys that storm together stay together as an Archon. Do we go into a 4th base? Yep, I think it makes perfect sense. Nice interception over here of the Raven. 3rd base is going to get acquired here as well by Clem, though, and he is going to be, well, building up the orbital command here. But so far, Clem has really not been able to achieve too much throughout this game. ShowTime has been one step ahead of him in every regard. Now, we've seen that before in one of the previous games, and Clem still leveraged that one into a win eventually. And look at him over here, setting up a literal minefield. Supply depot as well, making it difficult to really get the fight going. But let's see, is there enough for Protoss to break through this? The pre-splitting from the Terran has been good, though. Is there enough? This is a crazy commitment right here by ShowTime, and I wonder if he's maybe getting a little bit overly aggressive. If the Prism dies, it'll be very difficult, but the Prism stays alive. 19 SCVs do go down. I think that's it. I think ShowTime has just done it. Additional High Templar does show up, but it gets picked up by the Prism, brought back to safety against that turret. EMPs are not going to be happening because feedback was used already by that High Templar. Ooh, man. The Widowmine ended up killing one of those medevacs as well. Another GG well played gets called. And that is the 3rd one right there from Clem. So, ShowTime ends up winning the series. I don't know how many people really expected that or predicted that going into this particular finals, but ShowTime played really well. And honestly, this last game showed us why High Templar are probably the better option, but Colossi are still certainly also a winning choice.